Hello and welcome to my YouTube. This YouTube is Remembering the Year 1951. I was 7 years old and in the second grade in the South Ward School in 1951. The President of the United States was Harry Truman. Avalanches in the Alps killed 240 people and buried 45,000 people momentarily. A Pennsylvania Railroad passenger train derails near Woodbridge, New Jersey, killing 85 people and injuring over 500 in one of the worst rail disasters in American history. On February 27th, On February 27th, the 22nd Amendment to the United States Constitution was passed, limiting presidents to 2 terms. That's because Franklin Delano Roosevelt served 3 terms during World War II. On March 29th, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg are convicted of conspiracy to commit espionage, and on April 5th, they are sentenced to die. On March 29th, Rodgers and Hammerstein's The King and I opens on Broadway. On March 31st, Remington Rand delivers the first UNIVAC 1 computer to the United States Census Bureau. On April 11th, President Harry Truman relieves General Douglas MacArthur of his Far East Command in the Korean War. On May 8th, the first thermonuclear weapon is tested at the Iwanook Atoll in the Marshall Islands. On September 8th, the Treaty of San Francisco is signed. In San Francisco, 48 representatives sign a peace treaty with Japan, formally ending the World War II Pacific War. Japan surrendered in 1945, but it took another 6 years to hammer out the peace agreement. On October 19th, the state of war between the United States and Germany in World War II is officially ended, even though the fighting stopped in 1945. That's when this picture was taken. I remember my dad telling me he was in the Air Force, Army Air Force. He was walking along a street in San Francisco, and a Cadillac convertible pulled up beside him and said, "Hey, soldier, did you hear? The war is over." That's how my dad found out that World War II was ended. On November 2nd, 6,000 British troops are flown into Egypt to quell unrest in the Suez Canal zone. On November 10th, direct dial coast-to-coast telephone service begins in the United States, eliminating the need for an operator. And when my wife Sue was a high school girl, she worked as a long-distance operator. Number, please. On December 20th, an experimental breeder reactor won the world's first experimental nuclear power plant opens in Idaho. On January 20th in New York City, the United Nations headquarters opens for the first time. On February 6th, Paul Harvey, who was a very popular radio commentator, he was arrested for attempting to break into the Argonne National Laboratory test site, which was just west of Chicago, Illinois. He claimed he was working for some government agency, but he would never name who it was. Yeah, right. In baseball, Mickey Mantle hits his first home run of his career. Unfortunately, I was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan, so I'm afraid to admit it, but I hated the Yankees. I was not a Mickey Mantle fan. I was a Dodgers fan, even though I lived in the Midwest. On June 25th, CBS presents its first commercial color telecast, and it featured Arthur Godfrey, Ed Sullivan, and Faye Emerson. On July 14th, for the first time, a sporting event is telecast in color when a horse race on CBS takes place. On August 11th, the first baseball game is televised in color. It was a doubleheader between the Brooklyn Dodgers, yay Dodgers, and the Boston Braves. On September 28th, the film The Day the Earth Stood Still is released. Now, I'm a 7-year-old boy, and I went to see this movie, and I was absolutely mesmerized. I became a science fiction fan because of this movie. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to show you an actual clip from the movie. This is after the flying saucer has landed and a guy walks out for the first time and the soldiers shoot him. And then this robot comes out and he opens up this slit and this laser beam comes and, well, I'll just let you watch the rest of it. Here is that exciting scene from The Day the Earth Stood Still. On September 29th, the first live sporting event is broadcast coast to coast. It was a college football game between Duke University and the University of Pittsburgh, and it was televised live on NBC. On October 4th, one of the first shopping malls in the United States, Shoppers World, opens in Framingham, Massachusetts. On October 15th, the situation comedy I Love Lucy airs its very first TV episode on CBS. This is Lucy standing next to one of the cameras between the scenes. On October 20th, the CBS Eye makes its television debut. This very first time we ever saw this logo. In 1951, the average man's annual salary was $3,700. Doesn't sound like much. If you put it into today's dollars, that would have been $45,300, which is still considerably less than the average salary today. Cost of gas was 27 cents a gallon. Wow, that is really cheap, right? Well, in today's dollars, that would be $3.32. Cost of a new house was a mere $7,354. But in today's dollars, that is a $90,000 house. That's still tens of thousands of dollars cheaper than a new house today. It's probably closer to $200,000. Cost of a new 1951 Ford was $1,600. And 9 years later, when I turned 16, my grandfather bought me this car. This was my first car, a 1951 Ford. And I think he paid $300 for it. But that's what it looked like. This was my pride and joy when I first learned to drive. A movie ticket, 45 cents. The population in America in 1951 was 154,900,000 people. 154 million, okay? Today, it is 346,174,404 as of today. That's more than twice. So for every person on the streets in 1951, there's now 2. There were 25 million cars on the road in 1951. What I'm about to show you, I found to be staggering. There are now 288 million cars on the road. That's 11 times more cars. The most popular boy-baby names were James, John, Robert, and Michael. The most popular baby girl names were Linda, Mary, Patricia, and Deborah. So, who was born in 1951? What famous people were born back then? Mark Hamill of Star Wars fame. Jane Seymour, the beautiful actress. Robin Williams, the comedian, one of my favorite people. And the actor Kurt Russell, all born in 51. Here's 4 more. Sting, the rock star singer. President Joe Biden's wife, Jill Biden. The actor Michael Keaton played Batman and and the British singer Phil Collins from Genesis. On December 11th, baseball legend Joe DiMaggio announces that he's retiring from baseball. On December 26th, the film The African Queen, starring Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn, is released. One of the all-time great movies. At least I thoroughly enjoyed it. On December 26th, Pat's Beer commercial aired, the very first television beer commercial. This is what it looked like in black and white. The very first Jack in the Box restaurant opens in San Diego, California, back in 1951. So what were the top grossing movies that year? What movies made the most money? Not that they were the best movies, but they made the most money. Here they are. Number 1, Quo Vadis, starring Robert Taylor and Deborah Kerr. You can't get more handsome and more beautiful than that. Number 2, Walt Disney's Alice in Wonderland. This is the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. Number 3, Showboat, starring Howard Keel, Ava Gardner, Katherine Grayson. Number 4, A Streetcar Named Desire, starring Vivien Leigh and Marlon Brando. Remember that famous line that Vivien said? She was playing Blanche Dubois. She said, and I quote, "I've always relied upon the kindness of strangers." And finally, David and Bathsheba, starring Gregory Peck and Susan Hayward. You can't get any bigger than those two back in 1951. So apparently big epic Bible movies were very popular that year. Quo Vadis and David and Bathsheba. By the way, the Academy Award for Best Picture that year went to An American in Paris, starring Gene Kelly and Leslie Caron. Fabulous dancers. Only 9% of American homes actually had a television set in 1951, so only 1 in 10 families could watch TV. The rest of us had to listen to radio. So what were the most popular radio shows in 1951? And this is what I did because we didn't have a TV. We couldn't afford one. And there were no TV stations available where I lived. Well, the most popular radio show in 1951 was Amos and Andy, which, amazing to many people, was played by 2 old white guys, Freeman Gosden and Charles Correll. Popular for many, many years. Number 2, the Lux Radio Theater, which presented live dramas. That was the second most popular radio show. Number 3, The Jack Benny Show, starring Jack Benny and his sidekick Rochester, who was about as famous as Jack Benny. Number 4, Dragnet, starring Jack Webb. Now remember, this is radio. And the 5th most popular radio show, The Lone Ranger, starring a guy named Brace Beemer. He started playing him in 1941. There was another actor playing him, but he suddenly died of a heart attack in 1941, so Brace Beemer stepped in. And he played the voice from 1941 to 1954. The Lone Ranger. Radio. So, for those 9% of the American homes that had a TV, what were they watching? What were the most popular TV shows in 1951? Number one, Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts, musical variety show. Number two, the Texaco Star Theater, dramas, live dramas. At least they were live to begin with, and then they started recording them. Number three, I Love Lucy, third most popular TV show. And it premiered this year, so it came on the air for the first time and suddenly was one of the most popular shows, at least in the top 5. Number 4, The Red Skelton Show, which also premiered this year. I loved Red Skelton. Clem Hopper. And number 5, The Colgate Comedy Hour. Now, this was broadcast from both Los Angeles and Chicago and New York City. They set up an actual cable system. And there were 3 main hosts. Lewis and Martin hosted, Eddie Cantor hosted, and Abbott and Costello hosted. So this was the 5th most popular TV show, Colgate Comedy Hour. So what TV shows debuted in 1951? Came on the air for the very first time? Here they are. Amos and Andy made it to television from radio. Of course, when they came on TV, they couldn't have 2 white guys playing it, so they finally had black actors playing Amos and Andy. Number 2, The Dinah Shore Show, which was a musical variety show starring, of course, Dinah Shore. Number 3, Dragnet made it into television. Now, when it first came on, Jack Webb didn't want to play Sergeant Friday. He didn't think he was the right person, and there was another actor that he advocated they hire, but the studio said, no. You're the voice of Dragnet. You've been on the radio for years. You've got to play the Sergeant Friday. And so he did. The Lawrence Welk Show premiered in 1951. The Roy Rogers Show premiered. My sister Sonia was a huge Roy Rogers and his horse Trigger. The soap opera Search for Tomorrow began way back in 1951. One of my favorite shows, Sky King. This had been on radio for years, and I listened to it on radio, and then it made it onto TV. It's about this guy who had an airplane, and he would fly all over and get into adventures. Sky King. The Jack LaLanne Show. This was probably one of the first, if not the first, physical fitness shows on TV. And he would get on there and show you all these exercises and how to be fit like he was. So who were the most popular singers way back in 1951? And you old people will recognize these names. Number 1, Mario Lanza. What a handsome man was he. Number 2, Nat King Cole. Nobody has a voice that sounds like his. Number 3, Les Paul and Mary Ford. Les Paul was one of the inventors of the electric guitar. Very famous sound. They were very popular in the early 50s. Number 4, Tony Bennett. Popular for years and years and years. Number 5, Rosemary Clooney. Oh, how I remember that voice. Mockingbird Hill. So, what were the top songs of 1951? What were they playing on the radio? And what records were we buying? And oh, how I remember I would go into the record store and they actually had a little booth. And you could get the 45 RPMs and take it into the booth and put on these headphones, and we could listen to the songs on the records before we actually bought them. And I paid 99 cents for a 45 RPM record. And it was a store that sold televisions, but they also had records. So, the top songs, number 1, Patti Page's Tennessee Waltz. Number 1 song in America that year. Number 2, Tony Bennett's Because of You. Number 3, Perry Como's If. Number 4, Nat King Cole's Too Young. And the 5th most popular song in America, Les Paul and Mary Ford's How High the Moon. And now I like to play and sing 3 songs from the Billboard's Top 30 Songs from 1951. The first song I'm going to sing is Les Paul and Mary Ford's Mockingbird Hill. You know, in today's society, this song would be laughed right off the charts. It's pretty hokey and kind of sappy in today's modern standards. But in 1951, this song went to number 1 in March of that year. So although it sounds a little silly today, in 1951, this was a number 1 hit in the Billboard 100, Mockingbird Hill.
On the mockingbird's trill, tra-la-la, tweedly-dee-dee, there's peace and goodwill. You're welcome as the flowers on the mockingbird hill. When the sun in the morning peeps over the hill and kisses the roses round my windowsill, then my heart fills with gladness when I hear the trill of those birds in the treetops on Mockingbird Hill. Tra-la-la, tweedly-dee-dee, it gives me a thrill to wake up in the morning on the Mockingbird Hill. Tra-la-la, tweedly-dee-dee, there's peace and goodwill. You're welcome as the flowers on the Mockingbird Hill. In the evening I climb up the hill and survey my kingdom while everything's still. Only me and the sky and an old whippoorwill singing songs in the twilight on Mockingbird Hill. Tra-la-la, tweedly-dee-dee, it gives me a thrill to wake up in the morning to the mockingbird's trill. Tra-la-la, tweedly-dee-dee, there's peace and goodwill. You're welcome as the flowers on the Mockingbird Hill.
The second song I want to sing is On Top of Old Smoky. When I was researching the top 100 songs of that year, I was amazed to find that this song was in the top 100. In fact, this song hit number one. Let's see, it was number one in February of 1991. They don't really know where the song originally came from. It's some kind of an old folk song. The Weavers were a very popular group back in the early 1950s. And they took this song and recorded it, and it hit number one in the nation in February. It's the saddest thing you'll ever listen to, especially if you're a young girl. I mean, they're talking about a thief will take all you have, and a false-hearted lover will lead you to your grave, and the grave will decay you, and you're going to turn to dust, and there's no boys that you can trust. I mean, after listening to this song, no teenage girl would want to even look at a boy. That's how depressing the lyrics are to this song. Just listen to them. So here is On Top of Old Smoky, number one hit in 1951.
Smoky, all covered with snow, I lost my true lover for courting so slow. For courting's a pleasure, but parting is grief, and the false-hearted lover is worse than a thief. A thief will just rob you and take what you have, but a false-hearted lover will lead to your grave, and the grave will decay turn you to dust. Not one boy in 100 a poor girl can trust.
The third song, Hey Good Looking, was written by Hank Williams. This is the only happy song of the three that I'm singing. Well, Mockingbird Hill is kind of happy. Hank Williams wrote this song for another guy, and he only took 20 minutes to write it. But then after he wrote it, he decided, you know what, it's a pretty good song. I think I'll record it myself. So he recorded it. And this went to number 1 on the Billboard Country Song Hit List in April of 1951. It was number 12 in the Billboard Top 100 Songs of the Year. So here is the classic Hey Good Lookin' by the immortal Hank Williams.
Hey, good looking, what you got cooking? How's about cooking something up with me? Hey, sweet baby, don't you think maybe we could find a brand new recipe? I got a hot rod for $2 bill. I know a spot right over the hill. Soda pop and the dancing is free. Though you wanna have fun, come along with me. Hey, good looking, what you got cooking? How's about cooking something up with me? So we can go steady. How about saving all your time for me? No more looking, I know I've been looking. How's about keeping steady company? I'm gonna throw my date book over the fence. Find me a new one for 5 or 10 cents. I'll keep it till it's covered with age.